Hi everyone, I'm Heather Poduska, founder of the Brand Star Academy, where I teach entrepreneurs how to be powerful, profitable speakers and create their own celebrity personal brands. Welcome to Thrive, the show where I bring you tips, resources, and people to help you create a more abundant life and business. You're in for high value content coming to you from industry leaders who are growing their business, making an impact, and rocking their brands. And I am so excited to have my guest here today, my friend, Maryellen Conway. Maryellen Conway is an award-winning professional artist, teacher, and entrepreneur who's been creating and teaching art for over 30 years. She was one of the country's premier creators of Judaic artwork, and her solo style loft studio was featured in the Boston Magazine as the best art destination in the Boston area for classes and lessons. She has dedicated her entire life to teaching people how to access their creativity. She currently operates a mobile art studio with art lessons so people can unleash their creativity in the privacy of their own home or office. Welcome, Maryellen. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Heather. I'm so happy to be here. Always a pleasure speaking with you.
Same. I love having a fellow creative, and I cannot wait for our discussion to really dig into this topic of creativity.
Yes.
Because it's so important, and I think sometimes it gets overlooked and undervalued as something, especially in our society, in our schools, as something that can be easily let go of. And I really want to get into that conversation about creativity and innovation and wealth building and success and happiness and all of those things that stem from creativity.
All of those. It's so interesting to talk about creativity because if you bring it up in a crowded room, people start edging away sometimes. They're kind of backing up a little because nobody really wants to think about themselves as creative and what it means to them when it's simply imagination. And we're all born creative.
Yes.
So it's only a question of tapping into that creativity. And it's so exciting when you do something that has meaning to you.
Yeah.
You know, and I always tell my students, my older students, act like you're 4. And this is the first time you've done anything. Because as you know, I'm a visual artist.
Yes.
So, and there's so many different ways that you can create. But my specialty is visual arts. And it's just, I love it when the kids are fizzing away with all that creativity and their ideas and the juices get going. And that has been my goal through my whole life, to see if I can have them continue that into their adulthood. Well, Picasso said, we must all learn to paint like a child. Because the children never, ever, the little ones in particular, run out of ideas. They are just fabulous.
So where do you think that it happens that, you know, kids going into adolescence, into adult, where do we lose it? Where do we, you know, stifle our creativity or lose that playfulness with what we're doing?
You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. It starts when they go to school. And they have to start following all the rules and performing on tests and making sure that they are learning how to do math and all that, which is incredibly important. But in the middle of all that, there needs to be some downtime. There needs to be some playtime. And it's the playtime that generates all the ideas. And I'm not talking about video games, I'm not talking about TV, I'm talking about kids interacting and making up stuff and playing with each other.
Yeah, we had our mutual friends, Denise and Vanessa, were on the show, and they're talking about mindfulness. And they were talking about the concept of boredom and how boredom can be a good thing. So do you have any feelings about that, about, you know, how to get ourselves back to that place of creativity with this world of distractions and cell phones and all the demands on our time?
As a child, it's much easier. As an adult, it's really hard. But you can generate it. I have actually a group of people that I meet once a month, and we get together, and we're all artists, visual artists, but we all have different talents. And we get together and we just generate ideas and talk about our artwork and our paintings, and we play. We just play. Sometimes we bring food, sometimes we have some wine, sometimes we just talk. But the whole idea is that we are talking about fun things and really interesting things to do. What do we want to do next? What do we want to do tonight? And it's a free-flowing, thoughtful idea. There's nothing programmed or whatever. So to get a bunch of adults together and do that is always interesting.
Yeah, so I heard you say the word play and free-flowing. How does that translate into more concrete things?
So that's a whole nother
Not that it's not concrete, because I think art is concrete.
I understand what you're asking. Yeah. So what happens is that how do you generate that? What is the end product of that?
Yeah.
It's the whole process that is the stimulating, fizzy kind of thing that goes on. And the product could be simply, we go to a movie. I mean, it could be something simple. But we're not interested in the product. We're interested in the whole process of what we're thinking about, what we're talking about, who we are, what our art is about. So that itself is something that has been lost a little bit along the way, because it is actually for children the process of creating. And I have discovered that over the years, the level of creativity that children have had over the last 10 and 20 years has actually diminished somewhat. They need a little bit more direction, they need to have a little bit more encouragement, and I have always wondered where that came from. And so I was looking up some interesting information about creativity, and one of the things I found is that in Finland, they have 2 50-minute periods of recess in their school day. 2.
Well, here the little kids have 2. I don't think it's 50 minutes, but the little kids have 2, and as they get older, it gets less and
Sometimes
less.
it's 75 minutes.
Wow.
Depending on where the school is. And the principal is the one that is responsible for the children learning and keeping tabs on the kids. So they don't have tests. They only have one test the entire time, and that is when they are in the later grades of high school. But the teachers have to all have master's degrees. They are respected like professors that we have here. So what happens is that the kids have a lot of more hands-on project-based learning. For instance, go out and find 50 acorns, or go find 4 little pebbles. And so it's a very different learning style. As a result, what has happened is they are #1 in the world for the talent portion. And that is a very interesting kind of concept.
How do they measure that, the talent portion? The talent portion of what?
So there is something called the Global Creativity Index.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Big word.
Yeah.
But what all it does is, for every country, it measures their talent. And by talent, it's simply how many people do you have in the creative industries. How successful is your economy through those creative industries. They have technology. How up to date are you with technology? Where is the education level in your country? And then the third indication is tolerance. How tolerant are you of new ideas, and also of new people with ideas?
Wow.
So we rate actually #8 in the talent category.
Wow, I think that if I was going to run for president, that would be one of my one of my campaign points, of trying to use creativity to create more ideas and tolerance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and creativity is the #1 thing that keeps companies afloat.
Yeah.
It is the #1. It's the sort of innovator die. Kind of concept. Now, ironically enough, I feel that way about life in general. I think that if you are able to be creative, leading your life, you can solve problems, and you can get through life a little bit easier and a little happier than other people.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like, for myself, I'm a singer. I'm a creative person.
Yes, you certainly are.
It's always been a part of who I am. But when I started my business, I started getting very, very focused on the professional side of business, and I let some of that creativity go, and I just was not a happy camper. And last year, I've talked about this a lot on live streams and different to my audience and to my tribe, but I just was like, I can't not have this anymore. And I started introducing more things. I started writing poetry and doing photography, and it just felt like this huge exhale.
Yes.
Just like, And then other things started to flow more easily too. And I think that, I mean, don't you think that, I believe like that can cause disease.
Definitely.
You know, like dis-ease
Yes.
and disease.
Dis-ease,
It's
definitely.
the block of energy.
Absolutely. And the thing is that if you're able to create, it generates more creativity. And like people are like, well, that's easy for you to say, you're a visual artist, but that's not necessarily true. We're all born creative, whether you create serving a plate of food,
Right.
you know, whether you create just the way you arrange things on a table, or anything. It can be, there are some people that are so good with color. They can't draw necessarily, but they're fabulous with putting colors together. And it doesn't even have to be anything. It can be singing, dancing, theater, all of the above. And actors, you know, anything like that. It's just, and it's a great way you really live your life when you do that.
Yeah.
You know, you're really living a full life.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were talking, that I heard something recently, and it was when you're in the act of being creative, it's very hard to be depressed. I don't mean like clinically depressed,
No,
but I mean
you're
it's very
right.
hard to be in a bad mood when you are being creative.
Right, because you're in the zone.
Yeah, you're present.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're all connected. Every left brain, right brain, your whole being, spiritually, emotionally, physically, you're all connected. And you're just skating along, scooting along in that zone. And it's amazing. It's a wonderful feeling. I love that feeling, because there are some times when I'm working on a painting that the painting isn't really working for me. And sometimes all the way to the end of the painting, it just wasn't good, and I will do it over, I'll do a different one or something like that. But when you're in that zone, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
How did you, I mean, not everybody who has a creative bent has a professional career as a creative artist, as a painter. How did you become a professional painter or a professional artist?
That's another good question. I was actually always wanted to be an artist. Since I announced to my mother, I guess when I was 5, I'm an artist, and decided at that point. And then as I was teaching my brothers, my younger brothers, how to do some stuff, I decided, and when I grow up, I'm going to be an art teacher. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up doing it, being an art teacher in a public school. And I was there for 8 years. And I loved teaching, I loved the kids, but I wanted to do more with the kids. There's only a certain limit you can do when you're in an institution or a school system, and most art teachers do a fabulous job, but I wanted to do something else. So I opened up my own art studio, and I also gave me the freedom to travel around and sell my artwork. And in those days, that's what you did. Now you can do it online, so it's much easier. And so I have never tired of that. I always felt like I had the best job in the world. How do you do it professionally? It just so happened that I had a good head for business. So that was very helpful. A lot of artists don't. Sometimes we have a terrible reputation of being very flaky.
Well, can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, somebody who might tune into this episode of Thrive because they like the title about creativity and art, they might want a professional career. So where do you think that, you know, artists maybe fall down, or what they need to pay more attention to? Any advice that you could give somebody who wanted a professional career in the arts that you see people making mistakes and that could be helpful to them?
So,
Deep breath.
Well, there's a lot of ways to come at that question.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use a couple of examples.
Because you've been successful for a long time.
Yes.
Yes. You have survived and thrived as an artist.
I have.
Yes.
I definitely have.
Yes.
Because I've done it my way, but that's silly. It's
No,
true.
but that's a really good point.
You have to listen to yourself.
Yeah.
You have to listen to your soul and hope that you're making good decisions, because it is just a question of making good decisions along the way, and a little bit of discipline thrown into the whole thing. And as an artist, one thing you have against you, believe it or not, is that you are creative, and it's so not appreciated most of the time. And if yours doesn't look like the other person's, or you don't sing exactly the way this other person wants you to sing, it becomes very problematic. So you have to know that your art is you, and that you are going to move it forward without any praise or whatever from anybody else. Just go forward with it. And I have an example that I'd love to give you. One of them is, so I'm an HGTV addict.
Okay.
I love that show.
Okay.
All the different shows that they have on it. One in particular is the Property Brothers. But what I'm watching on the shows is how they creatively respond. How do Drew and Jonathan Scott respond when they're caught in kind of a pickle with the clients they're dealing with? How do they use humor? They are very creative in their responses. They're able to zig and zag out of different conundrums that they run into, problems that they run into. They have really creative on-the-spot solutions for it. And you could say, well, they practice this backstage. No, you cannot actually come up with some of the solutions that they have on the spot with these clients unless you are creative, because they lived in Canada on a farm when they were young. And their father encouraged them to engage in things and told them to go get jobs when they were 7. And do you know what they did?
What?
I tell you, I was so surprised. They went and got coat hangers and covered the coat hangers with nylon thread and made these beautiful coat hangers and sold them to the point that one lady came in and wanted $1 million.
Really?
Yes, and then they stopped. They were done. They were little kids, you understand. But since then, they have done acting. They were clowns. They've done a whole bunch of creative things all through their life. So the number one thing you can do as a person that enjoys being creative is to create. Do what's in your heart. Do what's in your soul. And do it in a way that other things don't stop you.
What does that mean, that other things don't stop you?
So dinner's a half hour late. The laundry will take care of itself.
You got to develop that kind of laid-back, chill vibe.
Yes, you do. You have to put it first.
Wow. That's so interesting. So I have a question for you around branding, because you have to brand yourself as an artist.
I certainly do.
As an entrepreneur. You know, a lot of people watching are entrepreneurs. How does that mix together with niching yourself, of becoming a certain type of artist, or becoming known for a certain type of art, or becoming known for something? And part of the reason I'm asking that is totally selfish, because not as a business person, but as an artistic person, I'm finding myself wanting to explore these other genres, and there's a little voice in the back of my mind that says, if you do that, you know, people aren't going to, it's a branding thing. So I'm really curious about what your response is around that.
I wanted to have it all, and I have. I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to be a wife, I wanted to sell artwork, I wanted to teach. I did not want to stay inside the box. I couldn't even find the box. So once I left public school teaching because I knew there had to be something else out there for me. And it's interesting how you fall, if you are really, really passionate about something, how it does come together for you. And the number one thing that I did that I am really proud of is that I kept my joy for painting and my joy for working with kids the whole time. And how do I brand that? Believe it or not, because I worked with children for most of the time, they were my best branding because I was selling me. You're not just selling a product. You are the talent, you are the product.
Yeah, totally.
And that I just was good with kids. So like you, there's lots of things I could have done. There's lots of things I like to do. But I had to narrow it down to things that were going to fit in with what I wanted in my life.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because it's not just about your talent, it's also about your priorities.
Correct.
Right? You had the priority of your family.
Yes.
And you wanted that, and you wanted art, and you loved children, and you made this unique cocktail of your life that included creativity and entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that suited me. It isn't for everybody. Everybody has to find their own way. But I did not want to lose the joy of opening up a brand new box of crayons that smelled like crayons, and there's new colors, and I have never lost that joy. To this day, I'll buy a box of crayons just so I can open it up and take them all out and play with them.
And that's why you're so good with kids, because you're just still a kid.
I'm a kid.
I love that. And I was saying that little voice is like, But what I have decided, and I would love to know your feedback about this, is that if you stop the flow, you cut yourself off. So not that you have to go after a professional career and every single idea that you have, but I think I showed you my rep video, right?
Yes, I loved it.
Thank you.
Yes, I loved it.
Thank
Took
you.
me a minute to realize it was you.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that it's different. It's very different.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean that that's going to be my whole, like I'm going to make a hard turn. But I feel like you have to explore those things because it keeps the energy flowing.
Right. You have to keep reinventing that part of yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the other thing is, how do we now, as adults with busy schedules, and we have this knowledge, but how do we make it happen? How do we, if we've gotten ourselves in the rut, if we are on our phones, if we are carpooling, if we're like, have a really high-powered job and we're like, I want more of that, but I don't even know how to start. How do we get some of that back?
Time. The one commodity we only have a finite amount of. And you have to build it into your day. So it's kind of like going to the gym. You go to the gym, say Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You build the time to paint or create. You give yourself an hour or 2 hours or a block of time on the weekend, 4 hours. And you have to do that, and you have to stick with it. And if you find that you have that time that that you're fizzing with ideas, you think, wow, right now I have nothing. But yesterday I had lots of them. And I don't know what's happening. So you just sometimes have to sit with it. Because sometimes I get my ideas in the shower. I can't write them down or do anything there. I just have to remember and have that block of time where I can get back to it.
Although I will tell you, I have heard of the shower notepad.
Oh, yeah.
And it's this waterproof thing. Maybe it's a crayon. But you put it in your shower.
A red crayon to write on my walls in the shower.
Yeah. Or maybe you just, it's with the steam, you write your idea on there. But I like that because it's going back to priorities. You're prioritizing yourself.
As women, that's hard to do.
I think it's hard for everybody. I really do. It is hard for us because we're so multitasking. But, men have a sense of responsibility. I think everybody has a hard time. And also, there's a whole thing now with men of a certain generation who are expected to be more involved with their families in a different way.
Yes.
So I feel like their time is more precious as well.
Well, Georgia O'Keeffe, one of our famous American women painters, wore black or gray. And she made her own clothes. As a matter of fact, I think they're on display at Peabody Essex. And she made her own clothes because she didn't want the colors interfering with her painting. She didn't have a kitchen where she lived. She was always very thin her whole life. You can tell eating was not a priority of hers.
What was it, Chinese takeout for her?
I don't know. She would eat a bowl of strawberries, It was so interesting to read about how completely dedicated she was to doing what she does. She really didn't let anything get in her way. That's a little on the extreme end. That's not the life I wanted, but it suited her. So if someone says, okay, I want to prioritize this, but there's so many other things I should be doing, what would your response be to that? Remove the word should.
Okay.
You can put another word in there if you'd like, but who is more important? You're more important. You're the most important person in your world. If you don't function well, nobody else functions well.
That's right.
So it's just a question of figuring out how to do that. And there are always excuses of why you can't do it. I have the best reasons not to go to the gym in the whole world. And there's plenty of reasons why I shouldn't go to my studio, but I just do it.
Yeah. So if you go to the gym, it's for your health. You will live longer.
Correct.
I'm going to just make another devil's advocate. Is creativity going to make you live longer? Really, why should it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Give me your best.
It de-stresses you. Completely, 100%. Keeps your body healthy, keeps your brain healthy, keeps you fizzing along. So that you're a joy for whoever you meet, spend time with, interact with. And it keeps your whole psyche calm. And we know that artists aren't noted for being that calm sometimes. But it does impact your life in that way.
But don't, I mean, the counter argument about that is, what if they didn't have art? What if the people who are artists didn't have art?
If they find something creative
Yeah.
to do, cooking.
Right.
I love to cook.
Yeah.
I find it very relaxing. Very relaxing, just like my artwork. There's lots of things that you can do that are creative.
Right.
Legos, I love Lego Maniacs. Legos are like the best thing ever. You can make all kinds of great stuff out of Legos.
That's awesome. So yeah, I think that that whole thing of using creativity as a mindfulness practice, as a de-stressor, and that can impact your health. It can.
Absolutely.
You know, like these people that have, you know, headaches and ulcers and all these other things that happen to your body because of stress, and people are on their phones trying to like calm themselves down. But don't you think, I mean, technology gets a bad rap for being a distraction, but what are your thoughts about technology and creativity and how those two things can go together?
It's funny you should say that. I think that it's a great blend.
Yeah.
They now have programs on your iPad or whatever that you can use. There's also gadgets you can use. There's this new thing out, pouring paint over colanders and spinning it around.
Ooh, that sounds so fun.
It is really fun. So there's all different things you can use it for. And I love technology. Absolutely, it lets me run my business from my phone. I love it. But it has its place.
Yeah.
And I am very careful about keeping a balance.
So if you were going to, you know, I've heard this question asked before, but like if you were going to, at the end of your life, have, write a manifesto about what you've learned, about, the values and the lessons that you've learned, because you are so wise and so fun and so creative all together. And I feel I feel like you have a special insight. Like you've got it figured out. Like you're playing behind the curtain while everybody else is like. So, what would be that message that you have for people about that secret that you have of creativity and joy and life and having not even knowing where the box is?
So one of the things that I've learned, and I've done a lot of research, and just from my general experience, hands-on experience, is that the happiest people are the people. Are you ready for this? I'm glad you're sitting down.
I'm sitting.
Are the ones that know how to play.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying you're playing a sport or you have to do anything. All of that counts. But just playing, and people are like, oh, that's good for you. But no, you can make time to do that. You just have to make time. Don't set an agenda. Get together with people that like to play also, and you know who they are. And play.
Yeah.
And all the research bears it out. Any study they've done all over the world, education-wise, it all amounts to play. Because play leads to creativity. Creativity allows your imagination to grow. When your imagination grows, your problem-solving increases, and you find that passion that makes you you.
I love that. And that is also for people who are in business and entrepreneurs and who are in
Absolutely.
careers and running companies.
Even more so.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a really good point,
Yeah.
because they don't maybe have as much opportunity or flexibility to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Because
love
it's the
that.
number one question parents always ask me about kids.
What's that?
How's he doing? How's she doing? And I always say, she or he, they're creating. They're solving problems. They're doing a great job.
That's awesome. So how can people find you now? Actually, I forgot to even say this, but I love what you're doing now. You have a mobile studio,
do,
which
yes.
is so cool. It's kind of like the food truck industry, like
it's true.
It's just this cool, hip thing to do. So tell us like what you're doing now and how people can get in touch with you or have you come and share space with them.
Sure. I had to reinvent my art studio for an assortment of reasons. Our world had changed. People's time had changed. And there was a lot more, variation in how people live their lives time-wise. So what I did is I closed my art studio, decided that I was just going to go to people's homes, having no idea if this was going to take, and it has been a huge hit. Because what happens is people are running around all the time with their children or themselves or work. But what I do is I come in, I give them an hour of oasis, of time, downtime, time to play, time to enjoy. And it's really working out so well, and it's been so well received. And it was great because I'm thinking, awesome, I created a whole nother idea.
Yeah, you created a whole other idea, and I can see that you really enjoy it too.
I do. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, I'm so happy that you came on this show.
Thank you for having me.
You're a wonderful guest. One of my favorite topics of creativity.
Oh, I know, I know.
And I just love using this platform to spread more thoughtfulness around creativity and bring people on, because I think that, like you said, it's something that kind of gets...
It does. It gets pushed aside. Everything else has to be taken care of, whether it's in subjects in school or housework or whatever. And then creativity comes along when I have time. Well, time is now. Right now.
Time is now.
Yes.
Time is now. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on. And if they want to find out more about the mobile studio, how can they find you?
It's intoshades.com.
Is two spelled or the number?
It's the number.
intoshades.com, the number 2, not
Correct.
spelled out.
Yes,
Awesome.
you are correct.
Awesome. Well, I have one last question for you, Mary.
Sure.
What does it mean to you to thrive?
Ooh, that's a good question. It means actually most of the time creating, having time with my friends, and doing creating with my friends, and to just be happy and go to sleep peacefully each night.
Oh, I think that would be a huge achievement for a lot of people. I like your definition. I really like your definition. Well, and thank you so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure
Oh, my
having
pleasure.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And as always, I want to thank you all for joining us as well. And until next time, here's to hitting all your high notes. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.